He taught me how to teach science. So we taught next door to each other for quite a while. Oh, dear. I'm so glad everybody could be here today. It's a beautiful day. It would be more fun probably to be out on the golf course, but I'm glad you're here instead. And we have people here from many different places, many different states, many different... I cannot begin to introduce every individual, but I want to let you know who some of the people here are. So I want all of my family, Bob's family, kids and grandkids, just stand up where you are. All of Bob's kids and grandkids. Massachusetts contingent got here, and it's just great to have them.
I'm the youngest of everybody.
And then the next group I want to introduce is Bob's brothers and nieces and nephews and cousins. And we have many of them here. We're especially pleased to have the Montana brother drive all the way over, and Alabama folks up here, the Buchners, California, and Bill is here. And Bill,
I think Billy came the farthest. California is probably the farthest.
California might be the farthest. Yeah, Germany is Manfred here. Manfred, there you are.
Sorry, Billy.
Guten Tag. Manfred is here from what city in Germany?
Close to Freiburg, Black Forest.
All right.
All the way from Germany.
Black Forest, yeah. Yeah. When we heard he was flying in, we haven't seen him for what, 6 years?
No.
3 years. 3 years.
The year before the 2020, I think.
2020? Okay. A while. Haven't seen him for a while. And I did, Manfred, I did get out my German book and try to practice a few words.
Okay.
So, and we have teaching colleagues. Many of you were teaching colleagues. Would you like to stand up? All right. And we have hunting buddies, and we have all kinds of friends and relatives. Glad Ron and Bob hunted together for years, and they claim that they never had a fight in all the years they hunted. However, I heard one side of many of the arguments. So, friends, relatives, neighbors, everybody, our former neighbor, Gordon and Lisa Burkle, who moved away from us, they came back to see us. They now live up in the UP. So I haven't seen them since they moved away. So I think we have pretty much everybody corralled now. And I'm going to make sure I didn't skip anything. Oh, the folks from Munising, they didn't get here, did they, Ben?
I don't know.
Didn't see them? Okay, all right. About a year ago, Bob got a phone call from a guy, and he said, I was a former student of yours in Munising. And he said that he wanted to talk to Bob. So I put him on the phone, put Bob on the phone, and the guy said, "Hi, Coach." Bob had coached their JV football team in Munising. So these two guys decided to come see Bob, and they did. And they were planning to come today. I don't think they've gotten here yet, but they may show up. They're pretty neat guys, and we spent a day together with them about a year ago when Bob was still in pretty good shape. Let's see if I missed what I'm supposed to be doing. Art, Jeremy Van Inshoot and Art, can't say his last name right now. Hi. Hello. Come on in. Okay, so with that, I'm going to read one of Bob's poems that he wrote on an occasion when we had a group of friends together, and I'm not sure he ever read it to a group of friends, but this is what he wrote. We, this decrepit bunch of, I can't even read. Start over.
You're fine.
We, this decrepit bunch of us, have gathered on a solstice glorious day, companions so long together, cherishing togetherness. We, so blessed with friends, so rewarded to have one another. That's from Bob. Some of you, I know, might have a story or two to tell. Is there anybody who would like to tell?
Oh, right. Here we go.
I'll start out. One of the members. I'm sorry?
Closer to your mouth.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jim Schaefer.
There you go.
Yeah. I drove right across the hall from Bob. It was not uncommon for Bob to pop into my room while I was teaching and write something on the board or correct my spelling. Because I'm a terrible speller. One thing I remember about Bob, this involves Beth. We were in 4-H. Beth was in 4-H, and we were at the fair and putting up stalls for our cows. And to put up the stalls, you had to drive these steel posts in. And one of the guys that was working with is a guy named Walt Wagner. And I had this heavy post driver, and I was driving these posts in like this. And he come up to me and he says, "Shafe," he says, "when I saw you driving those posts in out there, I thought you were about the strongest guy I'd ever seen, till I saw Bob Buchner doing it one-handed." Oh, okay. As you know, as Pauline put out here, Bob was quite a poet. One fall, I had an abundance of apples in my apple orchard. I mentioned it, and Bob says, "Want to know if he could come out and get some and put it around his deer blind?" I said, "Sure, come on out and get all you wanted." So he happened to come out to my house the day I wasn't home. And as Bob was apt to do, and some of you may have some of these, I wasn't home when he came after him, and he left behind a poem, and he wrote it on a torn off piece of political sign. "This is Carl Levin for senator." It's in my garage. And he wrote it on this back of this. And he wrote it with a ballpoint pen, but the ballpoint pen didn't have any ink in it. So in order to read the poem, I had to go over it with graphite. And this is the poem. "Apples I have gathered, each a rare creation. This equally rare day in October, belied by a golden sun, I leave a few, that some bird may scatter a seed, a tree grow to commemorate generosity added to friendship." Bob Buchner.
and I only have one story, and it's about the time that we attempted to butcher the steer. Bob said, "Bring a 22, Pat, and get one that is accurate." I said, "All my guns are accurate, Bob." "Okay, well, bring one, and bring some shells," because Bob never had any shells. So anyway, we get this steer out there it's a big one. And Bob says, I'll take it into peeps. So he pulls up with the 22 and shoots. And we hear this big roar. The steer jumped over and into the well pit. So it was down there thrashing around in the well pit, and we finally got it to come out of the well pit, and then it went up to a wagon that had a bunch of corn cobs on it, started eating corn. I said, "Well, this is our big chance, Bob." Steer's eating corn. Pow! Another big roar. Steer heads around the other side of the barn. I'll condense the rest of the story. After 3 more shots, we finally got the steer to fall down. And what had happened is that I brought my deceased father's target ammunition, which had a muzzle velocity of about 6. So what we had to finally do was put a bullet where there had already been a bullet. And that's what finally did in the steer. So, I won't say all the things that Bob said to me about my gun in between. He said, we skinned out the head after, and they were all in about the size of a quarter, right between the eyes. So if you think that a cow has a big brain, I got news for you. Pretty small. Anyway, it was good eating. Good eating. Thank you.
I'm going to go next because the story involves you. So I'm Mary Jo, and if Dad Buchner ever told you who I was, it's because I came and sang in his English class a long time ago. I'm best friends with Tracy, his daughter.
Yeah.
So Tracy and I are going to ACC, live our best life, have our own apartments, eat bologna sandwiches.
Yep.
And we lived above our landlord. And our landlord decided stupidly to go out of town. So Tracy says, we should have a party. And I say, okay. So we have a party. We're not old enough to drink or buy booze, but we have friends who are. So we have this huge party. Well, at 10 o'clock, in walks Dad and Pat Jocks, who have been at the courtyard for several hours prior to our party. So they come to our party, and everybody's like, oh my God, we're partying with our teachers. They don't stay very long. They make jokes and they leave. As they leave, they back into the neighbor's house, and they take off.
Not Dave, just Dad.
Just Dad. I'm sure Pat's like, get the hell out of here. So they leave. So then here come the cops and bust up our party and give us a ticket that she had to pay.
Oh wait, no.
No, Dad paid. Dad paid after she lied about who she was. She gave somebody else's ID. And then we got evicted from our apartment.
Yes, we did.
So thanks, Dad. But no, that's when I moved to Massachusetts. It was all good. But
And I followed her.
they were there.
So, I get this ticket. I'm working at the courtyard, and I get this ticket for a loud and boisterous party. And Dad says, I gotta pay that for you. I can't let you pay that. So he paid my ticket. I had to go all the way to to get the whole thing figured out. It was all good. He paid it. I was scot free.
They dented the house.
They dented the house
They dented
next
the
door.
house. With the rabbit.
Yeah, the diesel rabbit. Right. All right, who's next? Don't let me keep this microphone.
Tracy could never tell.
I can tell stories. Yeah, I gotta think of them though. All right. All right. So, you guys know that I was a chosen one.
You go, girl.
And I remember getting adopted the very first day after I was adopted. And he's like, what do you want for breakfast? And I was like, I don't know, what do you have? And he was like, I'm gonna have eggs, toast, whatever you want. I'm like, I'll have an egg.
Oh, God.
And therein started my grammar lessons for the rest of my life. Oh no, honey, you won't have a egg. You'll have an egg. And the next word starts with a vowel. It's an, not egg. I was 4 years old and adopted to this house out of nowhere. So I'm like, okay, I'll have an egg and some toast. Again, it was no, there's toast. So here I go. So again, I was probably down about 12. We went to a friend's house and I had to go to the bathroom. We'd been playing outside with the other kids and all that, and I had to go to the bathroom. I didn't know this person's house, so I was like, go to the bathroom. I go in, did not interrupt, because you do not do that. In our generation, we did not interrupt adults speaking. So I stood there, and Dad finally looked over and he was like, what do you need? And I said, where's his bathroom at? As I have to go to the bathroom, there's my next grammar lesson. Oh, no, you have little dangling participles. Where's your bathroom? No, where's your bathroom at? So, I have been at my job now for 5.5 years. And my boss is Chinese descent, but he's very good at English and grammar and everything. So we have this big meeting one day, he and I sitting there, and he says, all right, at the end of the meeting, he goes, that's where we're at. And I go, no, that's where we are. And he looked at me and I said, you let me make a dangling parcel with that sentence there. It's not, and he goes, nobody has ever said that to me before. And I was like, you know what, the weather people do it on the Weather Channel all the time. It's no big deal. And I said, but you know what, I'm really good at spelling, grammar, punctuation. And he said, well, next we'll work on your self-esteem. And I said, well, then that's where we are. Anyone else? Steph? All right.
Who is that?
I'm not.
Sit down.
It's not. Your voice just doesn't carry it up here.
I know. I have a
That was
voice.
my dad.
The original. You got the original, Dad.
No. This is my baby sister. We
Yep.
had some good times, but
Yep.
we played baseball, softball. Why don't you tell that story? That's your story.
You got the broken nose?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got the broken nose.
Good, perfect.
Well, you didn't know the big here yet. Again. How old was I about? 12?
No, about 11 or 12.
11 or 12.
Tell it together.
And yeah, 11 or 12. And
It was getting on into the evening in about July.
Yeah.
About July. And Tracy was getting some lessons on horseback. Yep, she was.
He literally tied my feet together with binder twine so that I would not move. You're gonna stand there and I'm gonna throw this ball at you and you're gonna hit it.
No, putting your foot in the bucket. Right, Buchner?
Right. So, I got a little pissed off. And he lobbed a really good one at me. And I smacked it. Line drive.
She got all of it.
Right to his nose. I was in 6th grade, so yeah. Mr. Homerly was my teacher. Yeah.
And he went down.
And so did this one after because she saw the blood. I'm on my way to 3rd.
It was poetic. It was justly deserved. She got real good, right?
And the next day at school, I'm in Sanborn School. Mr. Hopley was my teacher, and I'm in school, and Mr. Hopley was like, "Hey, how was your weekend?" I went, "I broke my father's nose." All right, there you go.
I know there's some other people that want to talk out there.
I know, right?
I'm gonna walk around and find them. There's gotta be a Buchner that's gonna talk. Uncle Carl. Carl's got a few stories. He's got a... This is my Uncle Carl for everybody that doesn't know him. He's the youngest of the Buchner boys. Take it away.
I have to talk about Bob, and I don't have 40-year-olds. What was the kindergarten? The only thing I can remember, I started school in Oscoda as a kindergartner. No preschool, I was 4. Just got on the bus one day, and no idea what was going on. So Bob takes me in by the hand and said, "Sit there, keep your television." Well, I was in shock for 4 days, because I just had no prep for this. Is that what tell their bed? You want me to tell that story? Is there something that's I'm missing?
Whatever you want.
Well, that is a really good story.
Oh, they're all good stories.
So, like I say, Bob and the various things he did in life, it was a book. And I got to witness a lot of Bob in my youth and old age. He was a very kind brother, he was family oriented. And as we can tell today, all his friends and relatives are keeping in touch with him. So, I'm not going to go on stories because it's way too long.
Hi, I'm George Buchner. Bob's my cousin. What?
Oh my God,
Did I
your
meet
cousin
you?
George.
Did I
You've
meet you?
aged a little bit since I saw you last time. I will give you a hug later, but go ahead. You and your thing.
Well, I was about to say, as an orator, I can't compete with all these school teachers. But I'll give it a try based on Carl took a shot at. Most of my stories about Bob are positive. So I was kind of searching my memory for a humorous one. At one point, I was staying with the Alfred Buchners, and Bud and Bob and I were sleeping upstairs in what was probably a queen bed at best. And that upstairs it get kind of cold. And Bob and Bud would fight for the covers. Since I was the young one sleeping in the middle, I generally made out pretty good. And then Bob had a tendency of sleepwalking. And so the whole experience was, in that upstairs bedroom was really interesting, including one Ruth and Jacob game. The younger folks probably don't know what that is, but that's basically hide and seek in a dark room and somebody says Ruth and the other person says Jacob, and we were playing that game, and somehow or other, I was completely innocent in this incident. Somehow or other, pillow got broken and there were feathers all over the place. And Sister Beverly was downstairs babysitting with us, and she came up with a vacuum cleaner and cleaned up things, and by the time Uncle Al and Aunt Mary came home, things were in good shape. And then I have a story that Carl would probably tell better than me, but Bill was teaching Carl gun safety and how to clean a shotgun, I gather, and ended up shooting some kind of figurine off the windowsill. Okay, and I want to hear from Ron Menigo.
Yes!
The other,
He's gotta have great stories. For sure.
Ron's the original drug muncher, or how you educators would say that.
This was not a fed-up deal, and no, nothing to say, except you should have been with Bob when we went to Ireland together. Yes. He could drive a car on the left side. I could talk English. And we had 14 days of finding out that all of my relatives that we went over there to see had burned down about 150 years earlier. Oh my God. But we had a deal. I got 5 days and he got 5 days. In his 5 days, we saw a lot of the insides of bars.
I was gonna say.
I did the same thing when I was there.
Right?
One more thing. How did I meet Mr. Robert Buchner?
How do you meet what? How do you meet your dad?
I am by long way range a member of a family in Alcona, and they adopted me, and Bob Buchner found out there's a school teacher here that knows about that land there. So Bob asked me at school one day, who owns that land? And I said, what land? He said, at the corner of, and he told me. And he says, can I do that? And I says, no, because I don't know who you are. He says, well, I can't tell you because it's against the law. And that's how I met Bob Buchner.
Hi, my name is Mike Buchner, and Beth was my buddy when we were growing up together, so we had a blast. I have so many things to say about Uncle Bob, but like Carl said, who was 2 hours ago, talk on that, but I still can't believe that you guys actually made him a driver's ed teacher. Now, is that true? Seriously? Man. Volkswagen Rabbit, he drove that around, how many miles, 300? He went like 140,000 miles without reverse in the car. Reverse did not work.
Buick Regal, and he was like teaching me, and I'm going down Nicholson Hill Road, the big hill, and I was starting to fish slide, and all he did was reach over and put it into neutral. I was like, thank you.
No wonder why you drove him the drink, the poor man. The other thing, the coyote stories were tremendous when you hear about the Buckners going out to coyote hunting and with the hounds. And Bob would go to Kentucky and go get a hound, or Tennessee, come back to Camp Albert, stop, and let the dog out to go to the bathroom, and meet the dog about 6 months later, and bring him back fishing. I don't know how many times he did that. Yesterday I was telling stories about Bob on the Mackinac Bridge. And I only heard that he broke down 2 times on the Mackinac Bridge. Come to find out, he broke down 4 times on the Mackinac Bridge. count on one hand. I asked the people, how many people broke it up? Maybe 5? He did it 4 times. The coyote story, besides the coyote hounds, how many men do you know that would actually chase down a coyote, get the hounds on it, through the road, chase a coyote in the barn, chase it into a stall, grab it and pick it up by the hind leg and hold it up in the air and say, hey, I caught a coyote. They seriously did. Then they took it over to the farm and they had the fenced in area for the hounds. Put the coyote in there, and you came back the next morning, the coyote was gone, so it obviously went out the drain tile.
Mike, they sent me through a culvert underneath Clark Road, came and got me out of bed when I came home from college. Dad and Uncle Bob to crawl into the culvert with the 22 and hindsight to shoot the coyote, and I'm like, well, Dad's like, just don't miss, and Uncle Bob's on the other side, so it'll be good. Shot the coyote, tied it binder's wife, and then had to just a culvert, a small one, back out with the coyote. Yes, it barely fit. They couldn't fit, so they came and got me. Oh, those are true stories.
Thank God for John and Beth that they had plenty of room to board those dogs for Bob. He kept all his dogs out in their house like that. And then I hear stories about when Bob was a kid. I'll have my dad talk shortly, but the one I laugh about is, if you knew Mary Buchner, his mother, she was a tremendous cook. And one day she decided to make these yeast donuts. And if anybody had a real yeast donut that you drop in fat fire, they expand your stomach. So Bud and my dad Bud and Bob got into a donut eating contest. And they kept going and going and going. And Bob, you know Bob, he's not going to quit. So he had to have one more donut than Bud.
Yeah.
So he goes to bed, and Bob doesn't complain, but Bob starts whining about his stomach. And you guys had to take him where'd you take him? Alpena to get his stomach pumped? Or? And the other thing about the Buckners too, they're a great sports family and great baseball. Bob played basketball, and he wasn't a great basketball player, I'm sorry. But, so he's playing, my dad was the point guard, and they put Bob in the game. And they're both going for a loose ball. And what does Bob do? He knocks my dad down, jumps on his head, and knocks out his front teeth. There's another time Bob was playing basketball. And you know how impatient Bob is, so instead of bringing the ball up the court like you're supposed to, Bob takes the ball, backs up, makes a lob pass, hits the referee in the back of the head, and the ball bounces sideways. Bob got a technical foul on that. I could keep going. The last thing, I just remember Beth's wedding, when Bob literally got the shotgun out and chased John up the ladder to get her down.
I was 14. They're going to be married 40 years in August.
Yeah, Beth's getting old.
I was 14. Wow.
John never looked better.
Right?
No, I had very blessed to have great uncles, and Bob was, like Uncle Carl told me last night, Bob Buchner never had a twin, because there's only one Bob Buchner. There's not two Bob Buchners out there.
Okay, I'm wearing this hat. You probably can't read what it says on top of it, but it says La Branch Tavern. And that was, La Branch was by Camp Alfred, and that's where one of Bob's favorite hangouts. So, La Branch Tavern. Great hamburgers, great whatever else you needed. I don't know what stories I should start with Bob. We have so many. I see my brother Bill, I haven't seen him for a long time here. I think back, he was about 10 years old, maybe 12 years old, and the three of us went deer hunting together. And Bill was the youngest, so he had to sit on a hill, and I went down in the swamp, and Bob was somewhere else. And at that time, we had a single shot 20 gauge. That was one of our main guns. And then we had a 22 rifle that Bob had. So I was in the swamp, and all of a sudden I see a deer, and I shot at the deer and I missed naturally. And all of a sudden I saw a bear come through. Well, I just had missed the deer, so I wasn't going to try a shot at the bear. And Bob comes along and he says, well, we're going to get that bear. So, okay, how are we going to get that, Bob? We're going to follow him. So we start following the bear. If there was snow, we could follow his tracks in the snow. He'd come to a tree, and he wouldn't go around. He'd just push it over like that. And we kept following that bear. And I says, Bob, are we lost? No, you never lost. And all right, we kept going and going, and finally, it was Thanksgiving Day actually. And we finally, I said, we got to give up, Bob. And well, I said, which way is out? Well, he says, I don't really know. He says, well, we'll go this way. So we started going, and we came to a cabin. And it just happened to be some people who we knew. And they said, well, you guys look pretty hungry. So we went in, and they gave us Thanksgiving dinner. And it was the best meal we ever had. And all of a sudden, poor Bill is sitting back here on the hill, all by himself. So they give us a ride back in there, Bill, and Bill has never forgiven us for that. Yeah, okay, so we could always count on Bob. But if there'd be a graduation or a confirmation, Bob would be there. Oh, shit.
Come on. Are you choking me up, Dad? Bob never missed anything. He came to everybody's events. We all know that. And Alan? One second. Okay. So again, it's a car story. So Uncle Bob thinks nothing. My poor sister Cheryl passed from cancer. And before she died, Bob came to see her. So he comes to the Twin Cities just in the middle of the night, shows up next morning. Oh, let's go see Cheryl. Okay, we'll go see her. So there it was below zero, but they keep the roads pretty good in Twin Cities. And then he followed my mom and dad to the hospital. And we get to the hospital, and Bob's all upset. And he's going, "Bud, what are you driving so fast for? What about all that black ice? What are you doing? How can you keep up with traffic?" So, sure enough, Bob said his goodbyes to Cheryl and drove all the way back. He drives all the way back to Michigan, gets back to Michigan, and talks about the black ice, brings the car into the shop, and sure enough, the rack of pinion went out on the steering. He drove, I don't know how many thousands of miles without a steering wheel working. And the other one, I mean, how many other men do you know that can set themselves on fire and drive all the way back from Camp Alfred back to Alpena, Michigan? At what age? How old was he, Tracy, when he did that?
Oh, this was just like 5 years ago. Yep.
Literally,
He set
he lost,
himself on
what did he
fire.
lose? He lost his keys or something? And
He was looking for his keys. He had lost his keys in
Lost
the
his
car.
keys.
He was looking for his keys, but a cigarette got one or something, and it got lost and set himself on fire. Yep. And he's gonna rip off his sweatshirt and throw it all down. Yeah, Beth probably knows more than I do about that
Right,
story.
he set himself on fire, drives all the
He
way to
set himself
Escanaba,
on
farther than
fire.
Escanaba, from La Branch, all the way back to Alpena with third-degree burns.
Yes.
Most people would drive themselves to the ER, but not Bob Buchner. Bob Buchner's so
He
tough,
would
he
go to the
drives back to
hospital up there,
Alpena.
he's like, I'm fine.
I'm fine.
I'll get back to Alpena. I'll have him check it out. It'll be great.
Yes. Yes. Any of we had that, but I said enough. Do you want to talk more, Dad, or you? All right.
Up at Camp Alfred, we had a sauna. I think you all know what a sauna bath is. Bunch of naked men get together and you get the steam going. Well, Bob loved this sauna. But he was worried about the oxygen level in this sauna because if there'd be too many people and the fire was going, and the oxygen would get too low. So he thought we should have a candle because there was no electricity, so we had to have this candle in there. Just like if the candle would go out, then we know it was time to get out of the sauna. So we were sitting there waiting in the sauna, and one of my grandsons was there, and Bob was sitting over here against the wall like this, and he had the candle sitting beside him, and he's leaning back here like this, and my grandson says, "Uncle Bob, your back is on fire." And Bob, he just rubbed his well, that's nothing to worry about. But we had a lot of fun together. We had, I remember one year we got sleds. We were about 15 years old. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Take your time.
We took those sleds and oh, that's all right. I'm sorry.
It's okay, Uncle Bud. Okay.
Who wants the next, George?
I'll attempt to take the heat off you by talking about a serious thing. When you lost your front teeth, what did Aunt Mary do?
What did she do?
As I recall, and I saw this, they wrapped up Bud's front teeth, gave them to Aunt Mary, and Bud finished the basketball.
Thanks, George.
Bud finished the basketball game. Talk about tough.
Thank you, guys. I have someone here that wants to say a few words. Hold it right up close.
Yeah, I'm just feeling what these guys are feeling.
Yeah, right.
When we were young, and so were you. 1961, Munising, Michigan.
Microphone. Mike.
He was a 10th grade teacher, JV coach, coached drama too, and molded a football team. I suppose there's some football players here. I just pulled in here. I was late. I came from out of town.
I had told him about you earlier.
So I'm not going to keep you long, but so he molded a football team in 1961, and he was a teacher, and so over the years, a lot of stuff comes back and a lot of stuff doesn't come back. Either details like road trips, and we would be in English class about 3:30, and he would say, "Okay, JV players, out, get to the locker." You know, we had an out-of-town game, and among the coaches that we had, he ranked the best. The next one that we had, he just did not connect the way Coach Buchner did. He would quarterback a couple plays, and us little guys would be trying to haul him down, so there'd be 3 or 4 of us, and he'd be dragging down, "Come on, you bums! Come on, you bums!" And he was one of us, you know. And I got these sunglasses on because they're my reading glasses. I lost my reading glasses just before I took off to come down here. So, go figure. So, when somebody teaches a football team, they teach them to execute. You know what I mean? Execute. Everybody had to cooperate. You guys have to cooperate, he'd say. And that was it. And the team becomes like a brotherhood. Now, we were all from the same town, so we would have been friends anyway, or maybe enemies. But this team, you know, helped form lifelong friends, okay? And so, two of us visited Bob last summer, after tracking him down finally, because we just wanted to see him, because over the years, we kind of wondered how he was. And that 61 team, I didn't even know if it was a winning season. We didn't care about that back then. He just trained us to learn the game, love the game, have fun, play hard, execute, cooperate. And, you know, that's values that have stuck with me. Anyway, so FFWD from 1961. Everybody know what that means, FFWD? No? Fast forward. Get it? Okay, so fast forward 1968. So that's 5 years, I'm 5 years out, that's 68. And so Bob walks into the supper club during deer season, and he's at the bar, and this young buck badmouths him. I don't know what they were talking about. And he called him an old man. And, you know, you don't know shit, old man, something like that, you know, it just pissed him off. Needled him. They went outside, glass breaking. Bob come back in, his shirt's all torn up. The other guy didn't come back in. You know, and it's like, oh, Jesus, he's a fighter. And tough-minded, mild-mannered, but tough. So, FFWD 2022, when we visited Bob, and we got the details on the fight. I said, you know, I remember that. He says, yeah, but what you don't remember is when I went outside to fight this one guy, 2 other guys showed up. And so he took 3 of them on, and he came back in and so we were young, and so are you. And this is just about gratitude. This is just about my gratitude for my connection with him as a coach, as a teacher, mentor. And it's really sweet. It's really sweet to see you all. I can just feel it. And I'm real glad to be here. Robert Buchner, gone but not forgotten. When we were young, and so were you.
I would like to follow that story because I don't believe one word he said. I knew Bob Buchner, and I know how much he knew about football. He went to Central Michigan, and he went out for the freshman football team. He'd never played in high school at all, but he went out for the team. And so on the first day of practice, they all come out on the field, and the coach turns and looks at that guy, tell that kid to put his helmet on the right way. He had on So I don't believe a word of it. He was a football coach. He maybe could teach about something else, but not football. One other thing, he liked to walk in his sleep. And we had our bedroom was upstairs, like George said. So one morning I gets up And Bob loved to walk in his sleep. And here's Bob leaning up against the wall, all wrapped up in a blanket, sleeping. I don't know how he ever did it, but that was Bob.
There are Gary has a story. There are a couple of things I want to mention to you as we're doing this. Our son-in-law, Jack Butter, went to school up at Northern, and he had two excellent roommates. One of them is here today, but they came to visit us often, Kathy and Dave. And Dave is quite a woodworker. As you know, Bob did some woodworking as well. And there are some things back here that Bob made that Wally brought along. But the urn back there, Dave made. And when Dave was here last time, they went out to Bob's barn. I didn't know anything about this until the day before yesterday. They went out to the barn. Dave picked out some wood, took it home, turned it on the lathe, and he made Bob's barn for him. So you'll have to take a look at that. There are some other things you might like to look at there, but I just wanted to point that out. Many people have brought things that they remember Bob. And then you'll see a bunch of neckties standing up here, or hanging up here. They were made by students, but the reason they were made by students was because Bob would go to garage sales. He always wore a suit, or started out with a suit, shirt, and necktie. And he'd go to garage sales, and he buys ties for 25 cents, 50 cents, whatever. And then he'd go into class with them tied on purpose. And then he'd be talking away, and he'd say, "Oh, my gosh, I got one end too long." And he'd get a scissors out of his desk and cut it off. The kids caught on after a while. Garage sale ties. But he did that often. So when he retired, they all made him ties. Okay, here's Gary.
Can I just jump in front of you for a second? I'm a city girl, grew up in Detroit. When I came to Alpena to teach, you can imagine, I mean, it was like pretty, like, what is all this? But there are some of the most amazing people in this room who made my career in Alpena a delight. And I treasure well, maybe not every minute, but I certainly treasure a lot of them. And if there are any former students in the room, hello, because I'm getting so old I might not remember you. But anyway, to sing on with Pauline, and I'm good friends with Susan Lane, with Susan Reeson to many of you. And yes, and she reminded me, so I dug through piles of photographs and old memories, and that if nothing else, Bob would be pleased that I actually am trying not to use too many prepositions in my talk right now. Because I too, even though I taught English with him and was a school librarian, I got grammar lessons from Bob. And even now when I'm writing something, I think, oh, I need to use an action verb here. But I found a picture of me. I swear this would never happen downstate where I grew up. I have a picture of myself dressed as Bob Buchner. We had a dress as Bob Buchner Day, and you had to wear a tie, and it had to be crooked. And when Susan saw this picture, she said, "Why didn't you cut the tie?" And I went, "Oh my gosh, I guess I should have done that." And when I saw those, I've already sent her a photograph of these ties hanging because she would like to be here, but she's in Ohio. So sorry to jump in front of you, but the tie thing, I mean, it's true, every word. So, and thanks all of you. Bob was special to me, but you're all special.
She doesn't even remember me. My name is Gary Lee. She was our great librarian.
Oh, that's
Breck is our great history teacher. Shaker was one of our partner science teachers over here. So we put up with Buchner. But thinking of Buchner, there were way too many stories, and Bud stole my favorite one, so I have to kind of redo it a little bit. And Bob went to Harrisville High School, which didn't have football. And so he got into Central and went out for football. And the coach there was the JV coach, and he is very famous now. They've named the track complex after this coach, but that was Bob's coach when he was at JV. So Bob's dressed and standing there, and the tackle gets hurt on defense. It's a scrimmage. And who wants to get in there? But I'll go. Okay, well, son, have you played this game before? Oh, yeah. Steps up and says, son, are you sure you played this game before? Oh, yeah. Then why is your helmet on backwards? But this fellow went on to become the head coach in athletic director. Like I said, there's fields named after that coach today, and I couldn't remember his name. That's part of it. But that's my quick Buchner story. Then in '68, I saw him for the first time, and some people remember that Mankato had a baseball team, and Spruce also had a baseball team, and we had to play Mankato. And guess who was the catcher? That was Bob Buchner. He looked pretty tough to me, and I was just a young kid then, but I met him again in '68 when I started teaching in Alpena. And the trick at the time was to goon people, which meant if you were a teacher, you got a letter from the superintendent telling you were a jerk or something like that. And so I was teaching biology right across from the office, and I get this letter, and I read it, and it says, I was teaching biology. When teaching parts of the human body, keep all the parts covered. And so, oh man, I got the torso up here. I had a nice sweater the kids at Flint had given me. So I put my sweater over the torso, and I'm opening the sweater, taking out the heart. I'm really bad. I was probably cussing under my breath by then. But I look out in the hall, and Bob Buchner's out there going, but he would dodge in right on the board. Phylogeny recapitulates ontogeny. And the kids would be looking, who the hell is this guy? You know, and I'm looking like, oh God, what are you doing, Buchner? Sorry. But and he had to do that to him and then dodge out of the room, you know, explaining this to the kids. So anyway, that's a couple of my stories. It's her record.
Thank you, everybody. My girls tell me that the food is just about ready, so I'm going to close this off. But this big tough guy that everybody's been telling you about, we were married for 31 years. Not a day went by that he didn't say, I love you, Pete. So, I take instructions from my kids, and they tell me that they have everything ready, but you're to go out this way and start the line there so you get a plate. Go here, and the table is set up so that you can go down either side. And I need to find my Kevin. Oh, here it is. Okay, Kevin's going to say grace first.
As we pause for a moment for grace over this meal, we'll be reading the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. I think it's very appropriate for us in this time and place because this is a way that St. Francis prayed a prayer that spoke to community and how we live in community and how we are individuals and how we share. And I think that's appropriate for us today. I should probably take my hat off. Let us pray. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Master, grant that I might not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Amen.
They're gonna have food, they're serving food now, right? I'll tell them it's here.
I would like to vote for the poor guy, but you know what? It says endorsed by Trump.
What are you doing?
I recognize that. I just bought a house. Never met the man before in my life. And so I came, it was over there, I can't really remember why. I think it was maybe described my neighborhood. Buchner, Buchner, and I noticed, kind of like,